Welcome to Mark My Words, a podcast that not only aims to inspire and teach the listener about entrepreneurship, it also aims to give my guests an opportunity to talk about their unique journey in entrepreneurship and life. So join me and my guests as we meet at the crossroads on Mark My Words. Barby Ingle, the co-founder of iPAIN, which stands for International Pain Foundation, is an extreme time cheater who lives life to the fullest despite living with chronic pain. And she is here today to share her story and tell the story of how she's changed lives for pain patients around the world. And she's also going to tell us a little bit about her journey in life. She is a chronic pain educator, pain advocate, and as well as a motivational speaker, best-selling author on pain topics. It is my pleasure to introduce Barby Ingle to Mark My Words. How you doing today, Barby?
Hi, Mark. I'm doing really good. Thank you so much for having me. I am glad to be here and looking forward to sharing.
I am very much looking forward to hearing a little more about your story. As we talked about before we started, I did my research. I listened to your story on other podcasts and really amazing story that you have. But I feel like there's a lot of other things in the journey that I really want to fill in the blanks on because it's a fascinating story, very motivational for me and hopefully for others. And I know you're let's see how we want to start this. So first of all, I have to give a shout out to the Washington DC area. I used to live in that area. That's right. I saw that you were a general education fashion merchandising
Mhm.
major or specialist at Potomac High School and then
Yep.
studied social psychology at George Mason. Let's
Yes.
just start with that time in your life and how you became interested in specializing and majoring in those areas.
That's really what I wanted to be, was a professional cheerleader. And my dad said, "You can't do that. That's not realistic," which turned out not to be true. But I had to have some things I could fall back on. So I was interested in marketing and fashion merchandising and what was popular culture and moving brands forward. So I had that interest, but then I also wanted to be able to connect with people and motivate people. And that's what I did as a cheerleader. So going into psychology and learning how to work with other people and get the best out of myself and others was something that fascinated me as well. And through that, I even went into, as you said, functional psychology, took master's level classes on it to really study the brain and what is going on in the human body and connecting it all together so that I could be better, really be better at cheerleading and coaching and put that into practice with opening my own cheer and dance training company and coaching at Washington State University for 8 years.
That's amazing that you made that connection with cheerleading, the fact that you're interacting with people on that level and it's a very social level.
It
So how
is.
do you become better? You actually study the brain and social psychology. And
Yep.
that was very thoughtful of you, I think, to take that path and to that young especially to think that through.
Yeah. Well, my dad actually prodded me to do it, But because at 4 years old, I said, I'm going to be a cheerleader the rest of my life. And you could command a crowd and you could, perform and do all of these things that I love to do. But then along the way, you learn the time management and responsibility and the importance of cheering yourself and others to and through challenges that we face, and taking that and turning it into a business and turning it into a good coaching strategy that got my teams into the top 5 in the country, which even today, even though I've been out of that program since 2003, they are still continuing on the success that I built when I put the program together at Washington State University as the first head coach and that they ever hired. So it's continuing success even after I've left, which is really gratifying and rewarding.
And the perspective is so much different today because 30, 40 years ago, you could say, oh, I'm going to be a professional video game player. I'm going to do that as a career. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of other things that maybe our generation-ish grew up on that the previous generations would be like, just go out there and get a real job. But
Exactly. You have to do something that's real, that's tangible.
yeah, I,
I'm
I
going to watch.
I remember when I really sunk in to college, kind of a long story on why I held off on majoring in television. I think I knew from a very early age. I would tinker around with TVs. I would like try to take them apart. I would play with the antennas to see what channels I could pull in, which tells you how long ago that was.
Yep.
And I was fascinated with TV guides, and I was just really fascinated with it overall at like a real young age, like 6, 7 years old. And I knew all through my childhood that that's something that I wanted to do. But
Mhm.
when I really made that public to, like my parents, I think my mom kind of saw it, but my dad was definitely a little bit skeptical because for him, he was like, just get a business degree. Just, computers are a huge thing now. Study
See
like
that?
something with computers or get a business degree. And I don't have the skill for like math. I have said it a few times on this show. My senior year, I think I was in applied math two instead of like I never took trig or calculus or any of that kind of stuff. In college, I started in a math class I wasn't even given credit for because that's how bad I was at math. So I
Wow.
I just needed to do something a little bit different, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that I stuck to my guns and found my way because I'm in the field I've always wanted to be in. So, amazing just the perspective, and I guess my perspective is a little bit different from taking on like I'm gonna be a band leader or I'm gonna coach color guard, whatever, or in your case I'm gonna coach cheerleading. And
Yeah.
I'm really off on a tangent here, but I
Well, that's the
mean,
thing is some of us know from childhood, this is the area that interests me. This is my life purpose. This is where I want to go. And some people don't know until they've gone through college and maybe got into the working world and had to take on the adult life skills and activities. And then they say, wait, I went the wrong way, or I didn't know which way I wanted to go. So I was just trying everything. And it's okay either way, but the sooner you can dive in and really look at something, just know, keep your mind open. Because, like you said, no one would have connected cheerleading to running a business or creating a really good team. They wouldn't have connected all that. Whereas I was like, this is my goal. There can be, a million ways to reach my goal. How do I interconnect the things, and how do I do the things in life to make all of those things connect?
and of course, this business was like your first foray into
Yeah.
entrepreneurship, correct?
Absolutely. And I've started multiple businesses since then that have been very successful and helped other people start multiple businesses and nonprofits. And as you said, I was the co-founder of the International Pain Foundation. That came out of necessity for something that was missing in my life.
Well, go ahead and tell the story a little bit about how iPAIN came about. What exactly happened that changed your life and made you go on that route?
In 2002, I was in a car accident and they told me I'd be better in 3 or 4 days. And then months went by and years went by. And uh, I literally went from top of the world, fulfilling all my dreams, working hard, but fulfilling all my dreams and developing new ones, to everything coming crashing down and having to start back from zero with over $1 million in medical bills and having to piece it all back together, which in piecing it back together, I found my husband. And it also, my family was always close growing up, but it brought us even closer. And one of the things as a child that we did was every Thanksgiving, we would come up with a project to do between Thanksgiving and Christmas as a family. And it could be feeding the homeless or doing Christmas carols or going to a nursing home and spending time with people that don't have a lot of younger family around. And we would do these activities, and then everything happened with me. It took 3 years to get a proper diagnosis, 42 doctors before I got it right, or before they got it right. And so it was a long process. And my brother had said, hey, we should help people like Barbie, because we have all these resources, and if you don't have these resources, you're going to have even a tougher time. And so let's do something. And my dad and my husband said, look, it needs to be something bigger than a month project. We're not going to touch enough lives in a month. So that's how the foundation came about. And I say I'm a co-creator with my husband and with my dad and siblings to bring about a foundation that we built from just a handful of us to now it's an international foundation, and we help people in over 14 countries. I think we're up to 16 countries now, where we've done projects and programs and have things going on throughout our network. So it really went from an idea for a Christmas project to let's help people around the world. And we've helped, we've reached millions. We've helped tens of thousands. So it's really been quite a journey over the last 20 years. And really, it's gone beyond what I even expected of myself being a cheerleader. But I went from being a physical cheerleader out of necessity to taking all of those skills that I still had and could do and turning it into being a mental cheerleader and leading people forward.
So how do you do that? How do you go from the highest of highs and connecting with people? And that's obviously something that's in your DNA. Like you need to connect with people, and all of a sudden your life is completely changed, and now you're trying to pick yourself up from something pretty devastating and trying to reinvent yourself. How do you keep your mental health in check and stay positive? How do you come out of that and be this great new version of you?
Time, giving myself patience and grace, not expecting, I really had to concentrate on, I used to be able to do something in an hour or a few hours. Now it might take me days, weeks, months, years. My first book, I published 10 books, 5 co-authored and 5 on my own. And in doing that, I gave myself grace and time and patience. It took 6 years for my first book. Now I can put a book together in just a few months. So it's definitely looking at what are my resources, what are my tools, and creating that oasis around me, and using the tools in my life. Whether, my husband and I make a great team and are able to do a lot because we do it together. And I say I'm the brains and he's the physical, although we both have overlapping skills. We know where our strengths lie, and we can say, hey, I need you to do this while I'm working on that, and make sure that we keep that communication open, as well as listening. to myself, listening to the people who I'm trying to raise up and help. And there's a large community. And one of the things I had to learn in the process is we're all pieces of a puzzle and we make this big picture, but not every piece of the puzzle fits with every piece of the puzzle. It doesn't make one piece more effective than another piece. We still need all the pieces to come together to make that big picture to accomplish the goal. And realizing and recognizing that it wasn't just about what I did, but it's about what all of us can do. And when we step up and do things, it can get done faster. We can create a synergy and move things forward. And recognizing that in myself of, okay, even though I can't do the things I used to do, there's still things I can do that have value, and taking those things forward.
So you talk a lot about teamwork and how that helped you to make this a reality and such a success. How about when you did the cheerleading business? Were you basically carrying that on your
I
back?
did.
How much
I,
teamwork was involved with that?
we did, our company held summer camps. So you have to put together, renting out the dorms and the staff and the choreography and the business paperwork, and all of that fell on my shoulders. And at the same time, I had, just like I did with a cheerleading team, I had my staff and made sure that we knew, here's the choreography, here's the business, here's the coaching. We didn't just teach the cheerleaders and the dancers, we also taught their coaches. And so really putting it all together fell on me, but I had to learn how to delegate and make sure that all of us knew what to do. But when I did get sick, I couldn't keep the business going. I couldn't keep moving it forward. I wished I had more people that could have stepped in and filled in those gaps, and wasn't able to continue my cheerleading business and do what I was doing. We also were hosting cheer competitions, scholarship competitions, which were very large, and had people flying in and driving in and renting out hotels and facilities and all of the equipment that it takes to host those, and the trophies, and all of that was my brainchild. And I pulled in as many people as I could, but I needed other people to be the leaders. So when I had my bad moments, it didn't take down the company. And taking those things that I learned in business and bringing them forward. Hey, just because you are the owner, so the buck stops with you, but we have to do this as a team so that everything doesn't suffer when you have a bad day, a bad moment, a bad month or year, whatever it is that you're facing, that things can continue to move forward. And so, although getting sick, I lost my business. Now with the foundation, I've stepped out the last 2 years and it's gone in a little bit of a different direction. And now in 2025, I'm the vice president elect, and I'm stepping back in, and some of the things that I was really passionate about kind of got tamped down or overlooked to do other projects. And I want to see some of those things come back in. So it's, but there's also good new projects that they grew when I wasn't a part of the leadership, and getting it to stepping back into that, like CPR and first aid training, and approaching it from a physical, mental, and spiritual perspective, and bringing that back into the programs that were raised up while I had stepped back and took care of myself. So it really is knowing your strengths and weaknesses and communicating and doing it as a team to raise it up and make it be the best it can be.
What a difference from the perspective of starting a business maybe 30 years ago, 20
Yes.
years ago, compared to maybe even what I'm doing, which is a very solitary thing that I'm doing at this point. Sure, I'm probably eventually going to have to really seriously think about expanding, maybe getting somebody to help me out, because this business is picking up more and more.
Yep.
But if I were to start a business 30 years ago, which I never would have considered because
It
it
didn't
was just,
even exist what you're
yeah,
doing. It didn't even exist 30 years ago.
it was a different world. So
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, no, entrepreneurs, that's like Bill Gates. That's for people like that, not for people like me. I go to college and I am going to get a job, and that's how it was. But it's not necessarily like that as
Right?
much. And it's amazing how much the world has opened up for people like me and it's changed. And for me at this point, the teamwork is basically me leading the guests and making sure they have a good time and a good experience and making sure I'm organized and arranged. And,
Yep.
it kind of at this point for me stops there, depending on how much this really would expand. But just amazing to hear your perspective and all that thought that you had to put in to make that possible and just the perspective and amazing.
Maybe thank you. Maybe think of it like you're the captain of the team, but all of your guests that come on and help and share are the people who you're leading. And so you
Yes.
have everything organized, but from us, you still have expectations. I mean, I want to share this out with my network. And I hope that your future guests will share this episode and other episodes as well as their own. And I will do the same. And when I see you come through on social media, I'll be like, oh, here's another great segment. Here's another great podcast. Go check it out. And that helps you grow, but it also helps us grow. And
I
so to me, I see a team for you as well.
I love that you said that. I feel like that's a perspective I've never heard on this show. So, absolutely, even if you are one person doing a show like this and it's all on your back, there's a lot of other people that you're not even interacting with directly who are depending on you for good, clear
Huh?
content and hopefully something a little entertaining too. I
Yep,
could expand on that a lot, but there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. So I love that you said that.
absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about the business of iPAIN itself and really as a health advocate, if you were to meet somebody who was going through something similar, or even just wanted to do a similar type of business, even if their niche wasn't necessarily pain, what kind of advice would you give them as far as starting up this kind of foundation?
Well, I would say the first thing is get all of the business aspects of it in check. Like know what it takes to be a nonprofit in your state. There's also federal regulations and things you can and can't do. So checking all that out. But a lot of times you have to jump in to see where to go. So jump in with a project or a simple idea to get it kicked off, even a kickoff project, and do that, and you will start seeing where your pain points are, even if it's a different, if it's for cancer or gastroparesis or how to collect Corvettes or whatever it is that you're going to be doing. You want to make sure that you have that business foundation and it's solid. And then you start adding in the projects and the people and helping decide where to go and what to do. And you're with a nonprofit, don't expect that you're going to be hiring somebody right away or doing things that reach tens of thousands of people. Understand that you're going to have to create a base and then build on that. And the more solid your base is, the better your projects can grow and be in the future. And the better if you have a moment in time or a time period where you are unable due to your own health, the projects and function of the organization can still move forward. So having that base is really important, and who you choose to be your teammates in that beginning phase is really important. One, you want to see progress and growth and actually be helping and making a difference in people's lives. And two, there's some times where you outgrow your nonprofit. Like I took 2 years off to go do other things. I still stayed and was a volunteer and tried to help lift up the board and answer questions as needed in the background. But there's times when I've seen people build a nonprofit and they've done a pretty good job. And 10 years into it, they've been running this nonprofit and their board of directors says, okay, it's time for someone else. And they knock you out of the top position. When you have a nonprofit, you have to realize the nonprofits are for the people, they're for the public and the community. So you may not always be the best leader, but it still is within your mission of what you wanted to accomplish. So seeing that and recognizing that is a lot better when you do it versus your board of directors saying, sorry, you're getting stale, or we want to go in this other direction, and your whole nonprofit gets taken away from you. It's unlike a regular business that can happen to you until you get up into like a S level corp business where you have a board of directors that tells you as an executive director or owner what to do, or you're have stocks involved or something like that. So you have that outside board. A nonprofit, you're starting out with that outside board, and you might be the perfect person. Make sure that if that's the position you want to stay in, that you're not getting stale or letting yourself fall behind in moving the organization forward so that it can grow and be what it is without you. It's, imagine if I wasn't here tomorrow, would this continue on? That's the kind of organization that you want to build when you're looking at a nonprofit.
Well, speaking of building a nonprofit and doing it on your terms, you also live with a rare disease and you've been
Mm-hmm.
doing all this with a rare disease. And for somebody who also has like something pretty rare, it's actually so rare that I have a heck of a time finding anything about it when I Google it. uh, how do you go about like what's your mindset and your hope? Are you hoping to inspire people who have rare diseases or somebody who has something similar as you to also understand that they can take control of their lives, they can maintain control, and they're actually capable of doing a lot more than they might expect?
I think people seeing me in action get inspired to do more. And I'm glad for that. And when I first started and the foundation first started back in 2006, 2007, we just started for my rare disease, which has changed names because that's what rare diseases do. Once they learn more about it, they change the name like over 20 times for my disease. So the newest name is algoneurodystrophy. But when I was diagnosed, they first called it causalgia, and then they called it RSD, reflex sympathetic dystrophy. Now it's called algoneurodystrophy. And we concentrated on that disease and quickly learned that the same challenges that we face with a rare disease are being faced by other people, but they have different diseases, like you said. So we expanded it to all nerve pain diseases first, and we worked on that for a few years. And then we ended up saying chronic pain and working on the conditions that have pain as a physical symptom. Then we expanded to physical, spiritual, and emotional pain. And then we opened it up to rare diseases. And now we work with over 160 rare disease or different diseases. Most of the diseases that we work with are rare diseases, and they need the most help and attention. Some are really orphan diseases, maybe 5-10 people on Earth out of 7 billion have the disease. It could be a genetic deletion of a gene, or it could be just something that spontaneously happens in adulthood. It varies in the different areas, and so our projects and programs have expanded as we see we are not unique in this small little glitch of people. When you put all the rare people together, there's like 10 million people living with the rare disease. So it really shows you that we're not alone. yet we all aren't facing the same things. We have similar challenges that overlap, yet are individualized. Even two people with the same disease don't need the exact same treatments. So it's really looking at each person uniquely. And so it's really evolved from one disease to widespread to let's individualize everything from getting diagnosed to treatment to living better on a daily basis. What does each individual need? And sharing that information.
What is it like to meet somebody who is going through the same thing you're going through? Because I have only met, I mean, I've never met anybody who has opus GBBB syndrome, but I've only ever met one person who had like a cleft lip. I don't remember about the palate, but they were
Yeah.
on this show a few years ago, and it was like incredible. It was a really incredible experience for me to, after all these years, to meet somebody who kind of knew what it was like, because I've gone through my whole life just, it's like darn near impossible, even though I think the odds of at least meeting somebody with a cleft lip and palate is like 1 in 600, I think they say. But it's, to me, it's more like 1 in like a gazillion, because it's like
Right.
I I very extremely rare that I even see somebody on the street. I think once every 10 years maybe I'll see somebody somewhere on the street or whatever, and I'm like, oh, they at least have cleft lip, maybe palate, I don't know. But it, for me, just that one experience was like amazing. And I know there's Instagram pages that kind of like specialize and people can tell their
Mhm.
stories. So that's very nice. But
Yes.
I know one reason why I do this show is to kind of like talk about my own story and to maybe move my way into eventually talking to and helping more people similar to me. So it's just amazing. This is really long-winded. I know I asked the
Yes.
question like 10 minutes ago, but what is
No,
it like?
I think it's a magical moment. It's a human connection, and I've had a near death experience going through all of the health challenges that I have. And in that moment, I learned that what matters most is human connection. And when you can find somebody like you, um, it's a magical moment to say, I'm not alone. And I think a lot of times we get daunted by there's 7 billion people on Earth, and you feel alone in that. But when you find that other person, it's like a synergy and energy happens. And you know, all of a sudden you're not alone. And then you will start attracting other people around you. And again, we might have something similar or different, but we're all facing challenges. And so it really helps you see like, well, if they can do that, then I might be able to do that. And you will have the same things. Like you might be going, oh, I wish I was where Barbie is. But to me, I found that it's like climbing a mountain. And you're on this mountain and you're in a valley of the mountain as you're climbing. And you look up and you're like, oh, I wish I was there. She's there. He's there. They're there. I want to be there. And you're going through this challenge. So it feels like you're in the pit, in the depths of despair. And then you realize when you meet somebody else, you might go, oh, well, they're looking up at me saying, I wish I was there. I wish I was in that despair because this despair feels the worst. And it shows you that we're all on this mountain, but we're facing similar challenges as we work our way through life, and we're trying to reach that summit, that peak, and you know, that could end at any time. We have to take advantage of each moment. And when you reach somebody, you all of a sudden you're like, hey, we're on the same part of the mountain. And this doesn't seem so much like despair right now or depression. It feels like, hey, I can accomplish something because I'm seeing them. If I'm at this event and they're at this event, I have an accomplishment too. There's a win-win here. And it really gives you a different perspective when you start thinking like there's people that have never met somebody with the same condition or similar challenge, and how you can progress through that. Once you meet them, it really sends you up the mountain a lot faster, knowing that, hey, there's other people that are having the same challenges all around the world or all on this mountain trying to figure this out, and I'm not alone. So that meeting is magical, and it gives you that energy and synergy to continue to move forward, and helps equip us with hope.
Well, whether I actually meet another person similar to me or a person who has some of the deeper, the actual opens part of it, I don't know. But one thing I do know is every once in a while, I'll meet somebody and talk about podcasting, like how I got into it or being on camera, whatever the case is. And they'll be like, "Oh, my voice sounds weird," or "I don't think I could do that." And I'm just
Yep.
like, "Hello, my voice. Do you think I don't feel like my voice sounds a little weird?
Yep.
It has
Yep.
sounded a little weird to me my whole life. I think it's as I listen to myself more as I do this show, and maybe as I get older, maybe it's just, a wisdom thing. I don't know. But I'm like, I'm becoming more comfortable with, like, hey, that's how I sound. I actually don't feel like I sound as bad as I think I thought I did maybe 5, 10 years ago. And it's just funny to me. I'm like, okay, if I keep doing this, which there's no end to this show
Yeah.
as far as I know. I love doing it, but it's funny to me that, like, I know that even somebody who doesn't have the same obstacles as me, I think I can still reach them and touch them and get them to think, because it's like, hey, here's somebody who has, like, honestly a little bit of a disadvantage and things going against them, and they're still here turning away and making it
Moving
happen.
forward.
And
Yep.
they're getting amazing people like you to be on my show. And hopefully somebody will see that and be like, okay, I do have 100% the tools to do this. I can do it.
Yes. And we are our own worst critic, right? I could pick out 1,000 things that I don't like. At the same time, I've kept moving forward, even though, just like you did, even though I have challenges and I have things that are that could hold me back and legitimately hold some people back. I have said I'm going to move past that. I'm going to find a way. And how I did that is just break it down into smaller pieces, and practice talking, practice sharing. Oh, you have 1 minute to tell me about yourself. Go. And if I'm in an elevator and I really, the person that I want to know my story, if Marc Cuban or somebody walked in to the elevator, what would I do? What would I say? And I've had the moments where I was talking to Nigel Lithgow at an event, and he asked me a question, and I had practiced all these years. This is what I'm going to say if I ever get in an elevator. I had my 1 minute with him, and I used it to say, I didn't get the seat I wanted. Instead of saying, hey, I'm doing this to help the chronic pain community and take something forward, I used it to complain about a seat that really didn't matter in the scheme of life. I still was at the event. And so when that after I got done talking, and he's like, okay, well, that lady doesn't like her seat. He could have done something about it. He could have moved me to a different seat. It was his event. But instead, I didn't use my time. It helped me grow and reflect and go, okay, next time when I'm in that situation, I'm going to practice and I'm going to revert back to, here's my 1 minute presentation, and hope that gets their attention. And at least if they don't act on it, I at least know they have the information. So at any point, it could be a seed that was planted, and he might be working on a future project and include it in his future project and grow it into a tree. I planted that seed. Just standing there complaining about my seed was not a way to plant a seed to make it grow into something in the future. So practicing and knowing that we are our own worst critic, but we can improve from whatever that moment was, and taking that forward is the important part.
And that's very wise. I mean, and that's coming from somebody who has really put themselves out there and has really had that experience and have been through some pretty high end situations. So, I mean, I totally agree with you. And really, I think if you want to do something in this life, you can't sit on your hands and mull it over or dwell. You just gotta do it.
Yep.
And
Take action.
time is precious. I just did a solo episode called Time is Precious. And
Check it out, everybody.
yes, check it out. But also just I feel like that's a topic that doesn't really get thought about enough or talked about enough. And I mean, you're always gonna run into somebody, don't waste time, manage your time
Yeah.
correctly. And I don't necessarily like to preach or breathe down anybody's neck over how they, use their time or manage their time. Just
Right.
think about your time and think about how you are spending it. Just a simple, are you taking advantage? Are you really doing what you want to do with the short amount of time that we have? Because it really is short. I can't believe 2019 was just 5 years ago. We're in almost to 2025. Like it just keeps going and going. It doesn't wait for anybody. And that is we're getting far removed from the core of this. But
No, I love it. One of the things that when you were talking, it reminded me of the energy penny principle. That's what I call it. When I was being coached by other coaches, I had a coach that told me no deposit, no return. Life is like a bank, and you get out of it what you put into it. And that makes a lot of sense. And especially when you're really physically active and you can do all these physical things, you see that physical action, but action can also be mental and spiritual. So when I was not able to do the physical things that I was doing any longer, that was one of the things I had to change. And I came up with the energy penny principle, and I only get 12 pennies a day. Before, I didn't have to worry about what was in the bank. I could just go and go and go and keep trying and do it again and again and again. And now I have 12 pennies a day. How am I going to spend them? I want to be conscious about how I'm going to spend my energy pennies, just like you would be conscious about how you spend the dollars in your life and the money you make from action. And so if it, okay, today I'm going to take a shower, that's going to be 3 pennies. I only have 12 to spend. So what am I going to let go so that I can take a shower today? Or, the going to a doctor's appointment takes multiple pennies, and the car ride takes pennies, and cooking dinner is coming up. I want to make sure that I am there to sing happy birthday. So, I really look at those energy pennies and choose what can I do to make the most of my pennies and spend them wisely.
well, I'm going to try to spend my pennies wisely before we have to go and wrap this up. Speaking of time, this is flown by. I really, if there is anything that we didn't touch on about iPain or what you advocate for, I'm going to give you an opportunity. This is extremely open ended. You can probably
Okay,
go on for a couple hours, but
probably.
if I know just from listening to other appearances you've had that you're covering an awful lot of stuff that you're obviously not getting into in this episode with me. But if there is anything that you want people to know about your journey, about iPAIN, about rare diseases, chronic pain, I'm going to give you a chance to say it right here, right now.
Well, you can go to internationalpain.org and see our calendar of events. You can also check out the 160 plus diseases that we're working with and doing projects with. But know that there is great reason for hope. All you have to do is reach out and seek it. A lot of people don't reach out and then nothing happens. So reach out and seek help. And even if one person isn't able to help you in one way, maybe it'll plant a seed to take it to somebody else so that they can help you. So get comfortable in that and create your oasis around you. Make sure that you are bringing the things, the resources, the tools, and the people into your life to make it be the best life it can be. And know that there, as I said, there is hope. I mean, there's help. So have hope. And you can check out my personal stuff. I was running for state representative here in Arizona, and I separated my personal website from my political website. Now I'm mixing things back in together. So you can go to barbyingle.com. It'll be changing over the next couple months, but check it out and see where we can overlap and connect and bring this together. But as you said, there's so much to talk about that maybe I'll come back for an episode, or maybe you'll catch me on another podcast somewhere else, and there'll still be more to talk about. So let's all keep talking.
Well, there I can say, and I thank you, first of all, for all of that. I didn't even have to really ask you the traditional, how can people find Barbie? You did it for me. So thank you for that. Secondly, I don't know if or when this is ever going to happen, but I've had some conversations about doing a little bit of a roundtable on like mental health and some other things. It's a idea I'm kicking around. So that is definitely a potential good fit for you if that ever happens, if we can make that happen. That probably is a conversation for when I hit stop.
No problem. Yeah, I would love to be part of a panel and or have you come on a panel for International Pain Foundation. And I think that what you're doing is great. I hope people that are watching, whatever platform you're watching on, go give the highest number of stars you can and leave a positive comment, and let us know what you got from this episode.
And might I say the same on my behalf? So yeah, I really, first of all, I wish you all the best in your run for Arizona State Representative. And I didn't know if we were necessarily able to talk about that at all, but I wish you all the best, not only in that, but just everything else you're doing. What you're advocating for is absolutely incredible. I knew the moment that you reached out, I was like, this is a slam dunk episode for me. So I thank you for everything and for being on Mark My Words. And we could have easily made this like a 90-minute episode, but time is of the essence.
Yes, more to come later, another time.
Well, Barby Ingle, again, co-founder of iPAIN, and I thank you for being here. I'm Mark Schmidt of Mark My Words, the show you've been listening to. I will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again for taking time out of your busy day to listen to Mark My Words. If you would like to connect with me beyond the show, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mark Schmidt, where I will be talking about entrepreneurship, careers, and anything else that is on my mind. You can also connect with me on Twitter and Instagram at Nimrod1979 and Nimrod79 respectively. This podcast also has a page on Instagram at Mark My Words. And finally, if you want to leave me a voicemail or check out what I'm up to with the podcast, come find me at podpage.com/Mark my-words. Thanks again for listening, and I'll be back with a new episode soon. Bye for now.